So I came back from an awesome conference in Michigan, MMLA, and I wanted to share some of my learnings from the conference uh, that can impact the way we think about engaging our customer base, no matter what industry you're in, and or just educating your audience. And I say that because I do have a master's in education. I served in the Peace Corps where I was a health educator, and we were taught all these skills around how to apply learning, right? It was kind of like a buzzword, like how do you apply information? So I notice a lot um, in conferences, all conferences, I'm not targeting MMLA, is that leaders go and they learn a ton of data. You learn a ton of insights, right? So, of course, as business owners, we want to realize results. That's the ultimate pinnacle if there's a mountain, right? Ultimate pinnacle, at the top of the pinnacle, is achieving results. Underneath the mountain, like at the ground level, beneath the ground level, is a ton of data. You need to have a ton of data and information. And the mountain is made up of actions, right? So we need to have data and we need to take actions that realize results, right? And as a leader of a company myself, I know what the results we want to achieve are, and I know a lot of the data. So now, as a leader, I have to build the actions that not just I have to take, but those underneath me need to take for us to yield those results. And how do you measure and optimally get everybody on the same page so that you can sprint towards similar results, right? So I say this in the context of some of my learnings. I learned a ton. I love listening to sessions, especially learning about who the future home buyer is going to be. We can have data all day long that the future buyer is really going to be a multiracial or ethnic woman who's single, you know, because that's going to be the majority of the college educated population. It's also the population with the most student loan debt, ironically, not to speak from my own terms, being passionate about solving the student loan crisis and the problem to going from debt to wealth building. But I do want to mention it because we can know that. That's great data, right? To know that if you're originating to mostly white older people, that number of people over the next 10 years is going to become smaller and smaller. But it's not just about knowing that data point. Your result can be, I want to originate more FHA, more affordable loans, more fair lending loans, whatever the goal is, right? To reach more of the ideal borrower of what the future will look like. But in order to create those results, we need a bunch of actions underneath them. And so what I realize at these conferences is we're given a lot of data. It's unclear what the takeaway or the action should be. And so I realize as leaders, it's our job to take this data and turn it into actionable insights that we can hold our teams accountable for achieving day in and day out. And I like to believe here at LoanSense, we talk about data, but we also provide tools and resources for lenders, sales teams like loan officers to be able to speak to, execute, and marketing teams to get marketing assets to market and speak to this information. And then ultimately the underwriting and processing team getting the documents, guideline compliant docs, ultimately underwrite. At the end of the day, it's not about data. It's providing the resources to individuals so that they can help borrowers realize those results. And the results are we help originate 4 to 5 more loans per 100 applications because we are identifying the borrowers that we can significantly help, helping the LOs identify them, helping the borrower get the documents to underwriting so they can ultimately close, all that good jazz, right? But the idea, and as I reflect, is just, it's not attending a conference, and it's hard to sometimes measure ROI on a conference we attend, right? We can come back with all these learnings, but how do we take a moment when we come back to jot down what are some of my biggest key learnings, right? I got a lot out of our motivational session in talking about the importance of self-care, and being an effective leader. I really appreciated that. At my table specifically, we talked about, for me as a leader, I know soliciting feedback for my team is really important. As a leader, your team might not necessarily come up to you and say, I really don't feel heard when you don't acknowledge what I say and start talking about something else. No, I'm just saying that randomly. I probably do that sometimes, but um, creating an environment where I'm specifically soliciting feedback, like, hey, give me feedback. It's not my time to just give you a review, but can you give me feedback on what I can do, especially being a remote company, to communicate more effectively, right? So I love that session. I wanted to share that. And I just left thinking, what are my key takeaways? What are my key learnings? How do I drive insights to not just make LoanSense better, but what can I contribute to bring value to the industry? So I love to put this information out there, see who else can relate, see who else. It would be great if we could go to a conference, have a speaker, and then they can provide all kinds of assets on what kind of actions and plans you can do to execute, right? I love seeing other people's like working planning docs. I remember an exercise when I was going to take maternity leave. Someone said to me, why don't you just jot down everything you do so that when you're on leave, we can know what isn't going to get done and then what are the important tasks we need to allocate to others, right? And I just thought it was such an interesting exercise because until I started jotting down everything, I didn't realize just how much I was doing, And so that was a really important exercise. That's why I love seeing other people's planning docs. If anyone's willing to share anything, if anyone's going to take maternity leave and want my doc, happy to share. But I just love seeing people's planning docs. Anything like takeaway docs. What is the plan to help them get and take reviews, feedback? What are just templates and docs and things to help people plan, organize, and execute, right? Data into action. So love your insight, comments, and learnings as well if you want to share some.